Hello and welcome to Health Matters on Channels Television. I am Yomi Otaigbe. Today on the show, we'll wrap our discussions around human genetic makeup, particularly blood genotypes and blood groups. Do you know your genotype and the blood group you belong? What is the relationship between your genes and your health and well-being? These questions and more will be taken care of by our guest in the studio, who is a professor of hematologist and the head of the hematology department at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Dr. Professor Sulaiman Akomo. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I know when it comes to blood and blood issues, you know, you are always at home. So let's get into this conversation. Tell us about blood genotypes and blood group. What do we mean when we mention this?
Well, it's not very correct to say blood genotype. There are so many things in the blood. Maybe more appropriately, want to say hemoglobin genotype. You may want to say red blood cell type or red cell antigen genotype. You may even want to say albumin genotype. You want to say insulin. All the proteins that you have in the blood, they all have gene representation in the nucleus of the cell. And the type of gene that is responsible for production of a particular protein, there are different types of it. And so we will say genotype for this protein, genotype for that protein. I guess what we are interested in here is the gene genotype that are responsible for production of hemoglobin. And that you will say hemoglobin genotype.
Okay, so tell us about it.
So, as I'm seated before you, I'm a product of two other people, my mother and my father, which means all the genes that I have them in duplicate. If I say that I am made up of 46 chromosomes, I have 23 chromosomes from my mother, I have 26 chromosomes from my father. So you have that pair. There's something we call gene mapping, the particular location on a chromosome where a gene can be found. When we are talking about the hemoglobin protein, there are genes that are responsible for production of that particular hemoglobin. There's a particular gene that is found on chromosome 11 that is responsible for the production of one chain of hemoglobin, the alpha chain. There's also what you call the beta chain of hemoglobin. And that beta chain, the gene for its production is found on chromosome number 16. So when we are talking about hemoglobin genotype, there are two. There's a whole lot of science behind it. There are two proteins, that make up that particular hemoglobin: the alpha chain, the beta chain.
Okay,
we usually don't talk about the problems of the alpha chain. We talk about the problems of the beta chain. Okay. So the gene that codes for that beta chain, you can have the one that codes what we call beta chain.
Okay, so
C beta chain.
I'm sure some of our viewers are wondering, beta chain, you know. But, just break it down for them. So it means, as you say, a human being is a product of two other people. And so what you inherit is based on what comes from those two people.
So, breaking it down, I have two chromosome number 16. And then my mother gave me a particular gene for me to be able to produce an hemoglobin. My father gave me a particular gene to be able to produce an hemoglobin. So if my mother gave me a gene that I can use to produce hemoglobin A, and my father happens to give me a gene that I can use to produce hemoglobin C, then my hemoglobin genotype will be AC.
Okay.
It is possible for my mother to give me a gene that I'm going to use to produce hemoglobin A. My father will give me a gene I will use to produce hemoglobin A. Then my genotype, hemoglobin genotype, will be AA. However, this is where the problem is. When we conduct this so-called hemoglobin genotype test, we say we are doing hemoglobin electrophoresis. what that test is going to show me is that I have hemoglobin A. But the test will never show me that the gene that is producing it can be found on 2 chromosome 16. That is the problem. Because it is possible for my father to give me hemoglobin, a gene that's going to produce hemoglobin A. It's possible for my mother that when he gives me chromosome 16, there was no gene for hemoglobin A production.
Okay, so this is sounding a bit complex. And so let's go into it. Okay. What are the types of hemoglobin genotypes that we have? Okay, so depending on there are several genes that are used to produce hemoglobin. So the one I'm talking about, that is which most people have, 75% of people have, is the gene that leads to production of hemoglobin A. But there's the gene that leads to production of hemoglobin S. There's the gene that leads to production of hemoglobin C. There's the gene that leads to production of hemoglobin E. There's the gene that leads to production of hemoglobin D. So, and there's one we call hemoglobin O'Hara. There are several types of these genes. So all these genes can occupy just one location on the chromosome. So we call all these genes alleles, alternative genes. Okay, so we have AA.
So you will have AA if chromosome 16 has a gene.
Yes, and they have come together.
Yes.
Okay, so we have AA, we have AS, we have SS,
yes.
We have AC.
Yes.
I have seen someone who has AD.
You can have AD, you can have DD, you can have SD, you can have SO.
Okay, but the most common types is, the
most common type is the AA, AS, and AC.
And AC.
AC. But there's the D that is always there too, that people don't tend to recognize, because the D and the S, when we do the so-called hemoglobin electrophoresis, they occupy the same location. So most people that have D are usually diagnosed as S. As S.
Okay. Okay, so now let's take it one by one. The AA, what does it signify? If you have AA, hemoglobin genotype.
So the AA is what we say conventionally as the normal one. Any other one other than A, we call them hemoglobin variants. So the S is a variant, the D is a variant, the E is a variant, the O is a variant, the G is a variant, and a number of others. And there's one that's called the D Ibadan. Let's go into that.
Oh, okay. So AA, you say, is, for the sake of presentation, is what you call
the conventional, the normal.
Okay. And then the AS.
Yes. So, you see, when you say AA, I just want us to differentiate something, because it makes us to run into trouble in interpretation of results sometimes. When you say somebody has hemoglobin AA, it is safe to say that this person has hemoglobin A phenotype, rather than say has hemoglobin AA. Because if you have 2 genes producing hemoglobin A, you are truly genotype AA. Okay. It is possible for you to have a gene, or just one copy of gene that is producing hemoglobin A, and the other chromosome has no gene on it. So you are not AA, you are just A. So, and except you identify that, you might run into trouble. Because if, for example, they have run my so-called hemoglobin electrophoresis test, and they found that I have just hemoglobin A, and you assume that I'm hemoglobin AA, whereas I might be just the hemoglobin A and nothing. When I'm going to make my own child, that nothing side, I might give it to the child. And then my wife can pass the S to the child, and the child will be S and nothing. But the child is going to be purely as SS, whereas that child is not SS. The child is S and nothing.
Maybe that speaks to where you find some people who they will say they are S without having any kind of crisis.
Well, they don't have AS aspirant. Because for you to be born as SS, then one of your parents must be the other must also be AS. So the two have given you I am just A and nothing. And the wife is AS. So the wife gave the S and I gave nothing. And you say that that child is SS and is incompatible to come from an AA, apparent AA, and AS mating.
So why is it that we can't find the other part of it? For instance, is it a question of the kind of equipment that we use for screening?
The technology to do it. So,
because the person that was referring to that I know that has AD, the sample, the blood sample had to be taken to South Africa for it to be determined as AD.
That we can do in Nigeria.
Okay, we can do that.
You don't have to take that. You see, I just told you, when we do this simple hemoglobin electrophoresis test, the S and the D occupy the same band. So you will not be able to differentiate that this band is S or D, because we know the S is more common than the D. Most people just interpret it as S.
Okay.
Whereas there's a very simple test that will tell you that this particular protein that is occupying the S or the D band is typically S or typically D.
Okay, so is there a relationship between the AS and AD? Can we take the D as S or the S as D?
The D is a soluble hemoglobin. The S is an insoluble hemoglobin. Why we say hemoglobin S is a bad hemoglobin is the fact that
it's a variant, not a bad
It's a variant,
okay.
But when it is inherited in double dose, it gives severe disease.
Okay.
That is what I mean. Now that S becomes all hemoglobin are supposed to complex oxygen and transfer oxygen. The hemoglobin S loves oxygen too much, does not want to part with the oxygen. Every time that it parts with oxygen, it becomes unstable and precipitate. The D, we also complex with oxygen and transfer oxygen to the tissue. When it parts with oxygen, it remains a soluble hemoglobin. The A, complex with oxygen. When it parts with oxygen, it remains a soluble hemoglobin. But the S does not remain a soluble hemoglobin when it parts with oxygen. It's as if the structure of hemoglobin S is incomplete until it has oxygen on it. Okay. And that is why we say the simple test to show the difference between the D and the S is to conduct what we call...
And it's available here in Nigeria. You don't have to take that out.
Hemoglobin solubility test or cycling test.
Okay, so you don't have to take that out.
And we ask medical students to do that.
Okay.
You don't have to take that to South Africa at all.
So you've taken hemoglobin AA, AS. Let's talk about the SS.
Okay. The hemoglobin SS means that the parents both have single dose of S, and then you are.
So it means that the father is AA, the mom is AA.
So, and the problem with the SS hemoglobin is the fact that that hemoglobin does not deliver oxygen to the tissue effectively. So, and you need oxygen for you to remain well and alive. And that is actually the problem. And when the body says, I have to be alive, so I have to extract oxygen from this hemoglobin S, the hemoglobin S becomes unstable, precipitate, and when it precipitates, it causes distortion of the shape of the red cell, and it blocks the flow of blood, and then you have what they call infarction. And that is the problem with so-called SS hemoglobin. But when S is inherited with A, it's fair. When S is inherited with D, it's fair. When S is inherited with C as SC, it's not so good, but it's better than inheriting it as SS.
Okay, let's take this break. When we come back, we'll be talking more about other blood groups. That, you want to know if you are A or AB or OO or O, whatever the figure or the alphabet is. We'll get to know about that when we come back. Welcome back. We're talking about hemoglobin, genotypes, and blood groups. If you have questions, if you have comments, you want to join us in this conversation, you can call us on 0805 468 3514. 0805 468 3514, or you can send your tweet to yomi_o. Now, we've talked a bit about hemoglobin genotype. Let's talk about blood groups. So, and how important is it for us to know our blood group?
It's so important. In fact, we tend to classify human population according to red cell antigen type. That's what we mean by blood group. And we have several ways of classifying human population according to the so-called blood group. When you say red cell antigen, there are, just like the hemoglobin, you have several types of hemoglobin. The antigens on the membrane of the red cell, you have several types of them too. So the common or the commonest type of antigen on the membrane of red cell that we use to classify people according to blood group is the so-called ABO blood group antigens. And then we have what we call the resource blood group antigen. So we can classify human population according to the ABO blood type. We can classify human population according to the so-called resource blood group type. But I can tell you there are several other types.
Several others. Okay, we have a caller. Rachel from Surulere. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. You're welcome. I want to ask a question. Is it possible that the genotype changed? Because when I was young and in school, I used to be AA. But later I went for a test because I needed to do something. And I was told I'm AC. And I went for another test. It was still showing AC. So is it possible that my genotype changed or they didn't do it then?
All right. Rachel, thank you for joining us.
The genotype does not change. You live with your genotype forever.
So then what could have happened?
It's laboratory error.
Okay.
That's laboratory error.
Okay.
And that actually happens, you know. I've done genotype, a so-called hemoglobin type for someone that said, you are AD, and then somebody came and said, you are AS. It has not changed. It didn't interpret the result very well, or didn't do more tests to actually confirm that the S is not the D. And sometimes the S band is very close to the C band. And if you are not very careful, you will say somebody that's actually AC is AS.
You know why this is very important? Because you find sometimes that people have done their hemoglobin genotypes and they've been told it is this particular one. And that may have informed their decision in terms of who they want to marry as in their spouses. And at the end of the day, you find that it has changed. So how much, should the laboratories, put into this to ensure that we get the accurate figures?
Very, very important question. And that's to do with what we call laboratory quality system. So that is why the laboratory has to be certified for you to be able, to conduct such tests. Because this type of tests are tests that have far-reaching implications, in the conduct of human affairs. I was trying to allude to something, you are not very interested in it. But it actually causes problem in terms of parentage, that somebody, a child is legitimate, and you are saying the child is illegitimate because you don't understand the differences between what you call phenotyping and what you call genotyping. And these are very serious things that you must be able to
We'll talk more about that after this call. Hello?
Hello?
Thank you for joining us. Please go ahead quickly with your question or comment.
Okay. I want to ask the consultant there. Some people say like genotype, there is something, part of genotype like AA, that they are easily susceptible to malaria. I just want to know how true it is that most people with AA, they have malaria always. So I want to know whether the cancer of genotype can give you can get malaria easily.
Okay, Murphy, thank you. So, because I've heard it too, that if you're AA, you're more prone to having malaria.
And that is very correct. because God Almighty that caused the different types of the genes didn't just create those genes for fun. Genes that are created have to serve one particular purpose in the ecology and to combat some environmental hostilities. So when genes are evolved, it's just evolved for a particular purpose, and particularly the H gene. Actually, we now know that evolves primarily in the malarious belt of the world. And what I have now come to realize is that the malaria parasite, for it to feed, in fact, for it to grow and multiply, it only grows and multiplies inside the red blood cells. And what it feeds on is the hemoglobin of human beings. So there are some parasites that will not be able to feed on the hemoglobin of some other animals. So malaria parasite does not cause serious illnesses, maybe in the goat, because the malaria parasite is not able to feed effectively on the hemoglobin of those animals. But on the hemoglobin of human beings, malaria parasite digest it, use
and
it.
Those that have AA, they are more...
The hemoglobin A happens to be very good food for malaria parasite.
So,
and whereas the S hemoglobin, the malaria parasite does not able to metabolize it.
To enjoy that. So okay, let's be joined by Dio. Hello? Hello, are you there, Dio? Okay, you can continue your so for those who have S,
hemoglobin AA, malaria parasite will replicate very fast in you, and then you are going to come down with severe malaria. Compare with somebody who has hemoglobin AS.
Quickly, let's go back to the blood group you were trying to talk about.
Yes, I was going to say that the most important reason why we classify women population according to blood group is for the purposes of transfusion medicine, because and we say the ABO blood group system is the most important thing that we must ensure that we know, because it is only in the ABO blood group system that we have that phenomenon that is referred to as occurrence of a naturally occurring antibody to a particular ABO antigen that you lack.
Give us an example of that.
If I'm blood group A, that is, I'm not B, then I lack B, I will naturally have anti-B. So if I need to have blood transfusion, I naturally have anti-B. If you bring B blood to me, you will just readily kill me. Because you lack a particular antigen, you naturally have an antibody to it, and it is waiting. Okay,
we'll talk about it now after this. Asata from Enugu, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good evening.
It's afternoon.
It's afternoon.
Go ahead, please.
My question goes like this. I want to ask the professor there. The person with the O group, can he marry XS or AS? I want to know. And let him tell us the significance of the O group donor, the person. Because we assume that the O group, somebody is the most viable among the O group. So let me give us more elaboration on that.
Okay, a blood group O person, we call such person universal blood donor, because we say you are blood group O because your red cell lack A antigen, lack B antigen. So if I take O cell to the blood system of somebody whose blood group is A, and that person has anti-B in him, that O will survive because the O does not have the B antigen. If I take the O cell to somebody whose blood group is B and has anti-A in, that O cell will survive. But we must always remember that that is not always the case, because of something else that we call or refer to as dangerous blood group O donors. Dangerous blood group O donors.
What is that? Quickly, because we need to wind down.
That means that blood group O donor is carrying with it, with his red cell, is carrying very potent antibody A, antibody B that can destroy a recipient that is A or B.
This is more complex than I thought. I'm sure we have to continue this conversation, and because everybody needs to know about some of these issues so that you'll be able to take informed decisions concerning your health. Thank you so much for coming on.
Tell that person that blood group who has nothing to do with hemoglobin S or no hemoglobin S, they are completely different.
They are different. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for coming on, Professor Sulaiman Akomo. Is a professor of hematology and the head of the hematology department at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Thank you for coming.
Thanks you for having me.
And thank you all for calling in. Rachel, Murphy, Dakpo, and every one of you that even tried to call in. Let's continue the conversation on Twitter at Yomi_O. Thank you all for watching. I am Yomi Otaigbe.